So, welcome back to the Couples in Focus podcast. I'm here again with Michael, and I am Thomas. And this is a second part of the series where we are looking at the difference between how couples engage that are struggling. Often, some of them come into our couple therapy practice, and couples that seem to be flourishing. I'm not going to use the
Mm,
master couples word from Gottman, it just
yeah,
doesn't resonate with me.
I know.
Um,
It's a rough word now. I
yeah.
can't I can't either.
There's just something that doesn't align with me for it. So we can
Yeah.
make up. I just say couples that flourish. That sounds better
I
to me.
like I like couples that flourish.
Yeah,
That sounds lovely.
exactly. And it doesn't feel like this is superior to this. It's just they're
Yeah, yeah,
flourishing
yeah.
more.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Right. So it somehow rings different for me. So we're going to look at the second part. And what we're going to look at today is something that we refer to as bits of connection. And that
Hmm.
might make no sense to you. So we'll get into that in a minute. But these bits for connection is really the glue of intimacy and relationships.
Hmm.
And it's when they get missed that we start getting into trouble. So, Michael, can you kind of help all the listeners out there kind of understand what are we even on about when we are saying this word bits for connection?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks, Thomas. A bid for connection is can be hard to see, right? Anytime, anytime a pursuer starts yelling, it's a bid for connection, which is pretty wild. And I know that's really like every withdrawal in the room just went, what? because it does the exact opposite, right? It pushes their partner away.
Mhm.
But one of the frames that we have is in growing up in the US, and Thomas, you tell me if it was similar, but like restless kids and kids that got into trouble in school and couldn't sit still in their seat for a while, like they would end up in a parent teacher conference where the teacher would use the phrase, your kid has attention seeking behavior.
Mhm.
And it wasn't so nice. Like they weren't trying to say a nice thing about a kid that loves to be connected to others. They were trying to say your kid is a problem child
Yeah.
without saying your kid is a problem child. And so you grow up with a sense of this idea that the longing for attention is a bad thing and should be put away, rather than understanding that attention seeking behavior is just a negative way to describe bids for connection. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And actually, this is an important point because by often we learn that attention is a bad thing. We even
Yeah.
also have words where we call it needy, right? So we
Yeah.
often
Needy,
label it as
clingy.
some exactly, it's labeled as something bad, but actually the foundation for any form of relating is attention. It's
Yeah.
giving each other dedicated attention, and we'll get into that a bit later in the episode. But even when you said about the screaming at somebody might
Yeah.
even is a bit for connection. That is the you can say the extreme spectrum of where other bits of connection has not been able to come through. So now I got desperate, and this is kind of my last way before I
Yeah.
draw as well and give up and collapse of trying to get through. And that's what we mean when we say it's also a bit to get through and get your attention, even though it's not
Hmm.
working. It's kind of like a maladaptive strategy because the normal bit for attention hasn't worked. And bit for attention can be anything. It could be you sitting next to your partner, putting your hand on their lap. That's you making a little bit for
Yeah.
connection. Are they going to remove your hand? Are they going to
That's
put
right.
their hand on top of yours, which is saying, hey, I'm here too? It could be turning and looking at your partner and smiling
Yeah.
at them. Do they turn back and look, or do they just look away? Right? These are constant. So it's not always verbal. A lot of these is any way where we reach out to say, hey, I'm here. Can I have your attention? Right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I think about how even withdrawers can have bids for connection that are missed all the time.
Hmm.
Like like I think about like some many of my withdrawer clients, they are car people. They love cars.
Yes.
And I remember one in particular had a car in the garage that they worked on a good bit. And when they would have a good day, you can have you get far more bad days if you're trying to work on a car.
Yeah.
If you've ever worked on a car, you know what I'm talking about. Nothing ever goes to plan. But some days you start a task and you get to finish it in the same day and it feels amazing.
Mhm.
And so they might walk into their house and want to share that with their partner, saying, oh, yeah. And the
Yeah.
partner doesn't feel interested in cars. And they're just like, ugh, he's always talking to me about his car. And it's like, actually, they're always talking to you about the thing that makes them joyful.
Mhm.
And that is a bid for connection. But if it's not of interest to the other partner, it's kind of seen as like an annoyance rather than seeing it as, oh, they want to connect with me around something they know something about, and they want me to appreciate the thing that they're doing and just find joy in the fact that they find joy in it. I don't have to find joy in the car,
Yeah.
but can I share my partner's joy? Like that's a bid for connection, even on topics that we don't really share a common interest.
Yes. And can I let them influence me? Gottman talks about this too. Let yourself be
Mhm.
influenced. And that means let their emotions influence me. It doesn't mean I have
Yeah.
to be interested in the same content. You don't
Yeah.
have to be interested in fixing cars to listen. You can be interested in meeting them and feeling that
Yes.
excitement, right? And
Yes.
because you're right, that is a bit for connection. Actually, one of the most
Oh, yeah.
harmful things we can do in a relationship is squashing our partner's excitement by, as you
Yeah.
said, suddenly saying, I'm not want to hear about your car. It's okay you're not interested in the car, but what they're really
Yeah.
sharing with you is the excitement. The car is just the
That's right.
content, right? That makes them excited.
Yeah.
So it's really about tell me more about this, right? What is it
Right.
that's so exciting for you? Try to
Yeah.
be curious because
Yeah.
that allows that excitement to be enhanced for them instead of feeling it gets squashed, right?
Yeah. A tip to add to that is we're not saying ask questions about how the car works. Like you don't need to know how the car works, right? Because you're so wait, what's the flux capacitor? Like, no, you don't need to worry about that.
Mhm.
Ask about their joy in it.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, that sounds really like, was that a hard job?
Yes.
Like, was that difficult? Did
Yeah.
you like you seem really excited about it? Like, tell me
Yes.
more about what's exciting about this.
A perfect example. So I built a new website for a project I'm working on, and I come to my partner here the other day,
Quit bragging.
and I told her about, look, I've built the website, right? And she's not interested at all in websites. So
Mhm.
that part doesn't interest her. But what she was interested in was that I was excited. So she
That's right.
told me about it, and I said, oh, it's exciting because I had this technical problem all day, and I managed to fix it, and
Yeah.
now it's working. So she could see I
Yeah.
was also feeling proud about myself, right?
Yes.
And I wanted to share that. Now, because
Yes.
she's very emotional intelligent, she picked up on this. She didn't start asking me about the website, how I solved the problem, any of that, because
That's
she's
right.
not interested. But she's interested in me, not the website, but in me.
That's right.
So what she noticed was that I was really proud, and that's why I came and wanted to share it with her,
Yeah.
right? And
We don't really grow out of the whole like, mom, come look what I built. Look at
of
the blocks
course,
that I stacked. The
of
tower's
course.
really tall.
Of course,
And
and
we
we
don't
all want
outgrow
that,
that.
right? We all want
Yeah.
that. Like, how
Yeah.
often do I in therapy hear the wife that often is home with the kids saying he doesn't even understand or appreciate what I do, which is so
That's
hard.
right.
We all want that acknowledgement. And she picked that
Yeah.
up. She said, that's amazing. And she then turned it into what we talked about in the last episode, an appreciation, and saying, I
Yeah.
really appreciate how you're always able to somehow find resource and solve things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she recognized that. And instead of squashing it, she gave me that validation, and on top of that she also gave me a bit of appreciation, right? So there was two
Mm.
whammies in one, and I felt great. We now have a moment of connection, and she
Love
didn't
it.
have to learn anything about websites.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I'll flip side it. I am like naturally, I didn't grow up liking the ballet. I didn't grow up going to the ballet, but I married a ballerina
Mm,
who loves the ballet. And I love taking her to the ballet,
mm,
not because I'm super interested in the ballet,
yeah,
but because I love her love
yeah,
for the ballet. I have learned a few things, and sometimes I can go, oh, that's music from Black Swan.
yeah,
Like, but I've been doing this a long time with her.
yeah,
So that's natural. I'm going to pick up something along the way.
yeah,
But it's my joy in the ballet has nothing to do with the ballet.
yeah,
It has everything to do with knowing that when I go to my wife, one time when we were living in Jackson, Mississippi, we went to Atlanta for the Atlanta Ballet Company, like their big ballet company in Atlanta, for one of our anniversary dinners.
mm,
And I gave her tickets that said, we're going to go see the Atlanta Ballet Company. And she was just delight hit her face. And I knew
Yeah.
this means a lot because she knows I'm not a ballet aficionado, right?
Yes.
But she knows what I love is her.
Yeah. I love that. And you know, that brings us back to this bit for connection is about
Yeah.
asking for your focused attention, right? And even as I went to, see my daughter perform, she plays piano and she
Mm.
had this little performance. And I don't really want to learn about how to play the piano. It's not my instrument, but I was there because I'm interested in my daughter.
Yeah.
And as I was there, I was sitting and all I was doing was looking at her with my dedicated attention to pick up how it was for her to play, how she
Yeah.
was feeling in this experience. And that's where I took my joy from her
Mm-hmm.
felt experience of what she was doing, not how she technically played the piano.
Mm.
But in that, you could see the joy in her face because I
That's
wasn't
right.
sitting checking my phone and texting. I was giving her, it was a bit for connection. She said, Daddy, I
Yeah.
have this concert. Can you come? So I canceled my clients and I came, right? And that
Yep.
told her again, I got his dedicated attention. And when he's here,
Yes.
he's not checking the phone. He's actually just here looking at me, absorbed in what I'm doing. And that's really what Bit for Connections are, right? Is are you able to
Yeah.
turn and give your partner dedicated attention? And that
That's
can
right.
even be for a split second. It could be them simply reaching out with their hand and you
Yeah.
taking the hand and giving it a squeeze. That it doesn't have to be sitting for half an hour
Yeah.
and listening all the time. But these tiny moments are so often missed, right? It
Mm-hmm.
can be somebody coming into the kitchen, just putting their hand on your shoulder. Do you stop
Mm-hmm.
for a second and turn around to smile at them? Because that
Yeah.
was a little bit for connection. Or
Right.
do you just ignore them like they weren't even there? Right?
Yep.
And these moments either become a sense of disconnect or a sense of connection,
Yeah.
whether you're able to turn to each other and give each other that. And I know for me, we have this clear ritual that whenever either of us come home, then we stop whatever we're doing for a couple of minutes. And the kids might come and say, "Oh, da 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 da," but we will say, "Just give us a few minutes."
Mm.
And of course, if there's an emergency, we don't do this. But
Yeah.
if there's not, we say, go play some football in the garden, whatever. And we just sit and take a moment to just check in with each other. Just none of us take phone calls in that moment. None of us
Yeah.
answer text messages. We just say, "Hey, how was your day?" And that's
Love it.
again, you can say almost a schedule bit for connection that we
Well,
know
yeah. I
when we
mean,
come
even
home.
actually, Gottman talks about reunions and partings,
Yes,
right? Like that these
yes,
moments, right, when we are about to leave one another,
yes,
like an acknowledgement of, "Hey, I love you.
yes,
I look forward to seeing you later."
yes,
Just that, and then when I see you later, taking a moment to pause and also want people to know uh, we don't have that ritual, my
yeah,
wife and I. So it's a lovely ritual, Thomas,
yes,
and I want people to do that. I also like we do it differently and it
yeah,
can work differently. So what we're not
absolutely,
here to say
absolutely,
these are the things you have to do to get it,
yes,
but you do have to prioritize
yeah,
this way. And what you're saying is one of the ways we do that
yes,
is this ritual of coming in and greeting and sitting down for a few
yeah,
minutes and like bringing it in. And I
yeah,
love that ritual.
yeah,
And one of the ways my wife and I do this is just as it's simple like joining one another in the moment we're in. So like if I'm in the
yes,
kitchen, my wife comes home, she's going to walk in and she's going to say, "Hey love, how are you?" We're going to pause for just a second. I'm going to give her a hug. She's never going to walk in. Like she has a hard time walking into a room without
yeah,
me going over and grabbing her, giving her a hug. Cause I just
yes,
love to like hug that woman.
yes,
Um, but then she'll join right in with me and say, "What are you doing? How can I help? Like, where are you in the process?"
yeah,
And we'll spend that whole time chatting and catching up for the day and turning on some uh, music together and listening to. Usually, it's the La La Land soundtrack because it's got a lot of lovely dance music in it. So we'll
yeah,
dance around the kitchen and whatnot. But it's kind of this moving
yeah,
into one another's moment and finding joy and connecting through this moment.
that's right.
Right? It's different than stop and pause, but it's the same priority of
Absolutely.
coming in and finding a way to reconnect after being
Yeah.
disconnected for a day.
So spot on. And it's not about the activity. It's not even that you have to do it a certain way or a certain time. There's
Yeah.
so many examples, and you're right, people make up their own. I think the point was for it's good to have some kind of rituals because it's easy to
Yes.
forget this in day to day. And for us,
So
it could
easy.
be something else. It doesn't have to be coming home. It could be if one of us suddenly, hey, give me your foot. then we know it's a bit
Yeah.
for a mutual foot massage, right? And that's a
Yeah.
little bit for connection. And you can either pull the foot away,
Mm.
which is dismissing, rejecting, or you can give your foot, right? And say, oh, give me your
Mhm.
foot. And now suddenly, then there was a bit for connection where we met each other, right? And that's a little ritual we also both are aware of
Mhm.
what that means. And of course, you find your own. It doesn't have to be any of the
Yeah.
ones me or Michael does. It's just
Yeah.
making your own moments and space and time in the busyness of our lives where you
Yeah.
have little moments where you kind of meet each other.
Yeah. And I think what we're naming is not do this, do that, but it's turn your internal attention
Yeah.
to the importance of reconnection,
Yeah.
right? And what I will say this, it is something we talk about, my wife and I.
Mhm.
Like, it's not something that happens without discussing it, right?
Yes.
Like, hey, I sure at some point you and your wife said like, hey, I love this thing that we've been doing. Let's make this
Absolutely.
like somebody had to
Yes.
make it clear, right?
Absolutely.
And so there's so many times that we have to stop and say, hey, this is what we want to do in
Yeah.
order to prioritize our connection. Whether that's like like I know loads of couples that are like, hey, every second and third Thursday is
Yeah.
our date night because their life is chaotic and they've got, they own businesses or they're doing all the kind of things, but they found a way to say, we need to make a ritual
Yeah.
that honors our connection.
Yeah.
And for them in their life, that meant nothing could be planned on these 2 nights per month because that was going to be their night. And the point being, they talked about it
Yeah.
and they prioritized it. And
Yes.
that's really what we're naming is turn your attention to the importance of prioritizing your connection and your attention with your partner.
That's right. And a bit like the dollar is the global currency of the financial market,
Which is silly.
dedicated, focused attention
Yeah.
is the main currency that we are
Yeah.
talking about here, about
Yeah.
building connection and these little bit for
Yeah.
connections. Is can
Yeah.
you turn toward your partner and for a
That's right.
moment, whether it's 2 seconds, a half an hour, an
Yeah.
hour, just give them your full
Yeah.
dedicated attention without
Yeah.
interruption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what, like, if we can just pause for a minute and name that, like, having a ritual of some type is so important,
Yeah.
right? Even so, when someone comes to EFT therapy, part of the final stage of EFT is stage 3, which is when we're wrapping up therapy. But one of the things that we discuss in stage 3 is what are you putting in place? What rituals are you putting in place
Yeah.
that will help you maintain your sense of connection and know that you can turn towards your partner partner
Yes.
in a moment of need,
Yeah.
right? So like setting these things up are so important
Yeah.
because I know like there are times where like there's something going on, and because I know there's like a time coming,
Yeah.
I can park it for a moment
Yes.
and be like, okay, cool. Actually, I can't park anything. I wish I could, but my ADHD doesn't allow me to do that. I go write it down in my phone.
Yeah.
And so I can remember, because otherwise
Great,
I'll
great,
forget it.
great
And then I'll
idea.
get frustrated at me. And then my
Yes.
frustration at me and my ability to forget things will come out on my wife. So I go to my phone and I write it down. And then I put a little check mark next to the things that I've covered with my wife. But I know that there's time
Yeah.
for us to cover these things that are important to me. And so
Yeah.
it even creates like a little container space for me.
Yes.
That's like, oh yeah, there's that thing and we need to talk about it. And I can put it over here so we can talk about it then because the rituals are in place.
Yeah. And I think the power rituals are so big. And I think one of the wisdoms I got from my grandmother, and she knew nothing about EFT because it didn't exist back then. But she said something really wise. She was married to my granddad for, was it 60 years or something like that, 65 years. And they were really happily married for this time. And what she said to me is when I asked her, so what is the secret of your marriage? She said, we never go to bed angry at each other.
Mm,
So that was their ritual. They had a ritual that if
mm,
something had happened during the day that had upset either one of them, yeah, you can't always solve it right there in that moment for different reasons. There's kids, there's work, there's
yeah.
whatever. However, they both knew and had the assurance
Like as we're
that
going to deal with this today.
we will sit down and we will deal with it because we don't go to bed angry. And
Yeah.
actually, I think she was so much smarter than she even realized, because now that we have more neuroscience and we can scan brains and get neuroimaging, etc. We also know that actually doing this means it doesn't get consolidated in long-term memory in the same way. Because part of what
Yeah.
happens during sleep is we reconsolidate the memories, right, in long-term memory. So
Mhm.
part of the benefit of doing this is also we end the day with an experience of repair with whatever might have happened, right? That can then be
Mhm.
reconsolidated when we sleep.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. We've got a few more minutes in this episode.
Yeah.
As we're talking about this, I imagine there's loads of people listening saying, I've never really considered bids for connection. I've never considered all these kind of behaviors, bids for connection. And
Hmm.
maybe they haven't even considered their own behavior as bids for connection.
Yeah.
But how would you begin to ask people how would you help our listeners find a way to make a clear bid for connection, right?
Hmm.
Not There's a lot of disguised bids for connection, right? That don't send a clear message to a partner like, hey, I really want your attention here. How
Yeah.
would you help someone say, here's how we can clean up that signal and send a clear signal to our partner that I want your attention and I'd like you to come close?
Yeah. And I think that's a great question. And I think at the stage where this is not a natural part of the relationship, it has to be verbalized. A bit like
Yeah.
we talked earlier in the other episode about appreciation. Maybe later down the line, we can just look at each other and smile. But in the beginning, we probably have to verbalize
Yeah.
it. And this comes back to often so many things in relationships that are not verbalized, whether it's about sex, whether it's about how we like to connect, that is
That's
not
right.
verbalized, meaning we are operating on our own internal map trying to guess and estimate what the other person's signs are meaning. And of
Mm,
course, we keep getting lost. That's why I always say relating essentially is sharing our internal map. Because as we get more of our partner's map, we get more of a predictive model of being able to figure out when they are trying to make a bid for connection. If I don't have that map, I might not interpret this as a bid for connection because that's
that's
not
right.
how I would do it. So there
That's
we
right.
come back to it's important to actually sit down and, as you said, first become aware of what are my signals when I try to make a bid for connection? I know that I often use touch as a bid
Yeah.
for connection. Just put a hand on my partner or come and give her a hug. That's my way of saying, I would like your
Yeah.
attention now for a little moment. And that doesn't mean that's your way, but it's about sitting down and being aware of what is it you do when you want a bit for connection. Maybe you shout across the garden, "Hey, darling," whatever it is you do,
Yeah.
figure out what is it I tend to do, and then sit down and communicate. When I do this, it's actually that I really would like to have some dedicated time with you,
Mhm.
right? And I
Yeah.
really would like some dedicated attention. So it becomes explicit because then they can update their model and realize, oh, when he shouts at me from across the garden, you say, "Hey, darling," that actually means that he would like to have a moment of connection, of where we
That's
just
right.
sit down and give each other that attention.
Yeah. I think even as you say that, some things that come to mind is like how many withdrawers are building furniture and putting
Mhm.
up the shelf
Mhm.
or mowing the lawn.
Yes.
And it takes a minute for them to admit it in themselves, right? But
Yeah.
these are moments where walking in and a partner saying, hey, the lawn looks so lovely. The garden looks so nice today. Hey, I
Yeah.
really appreciate you taking care of that, right?
Yeah.
I know that in that moment,
Yes.
being seen, like, thanks for putting up that shelf. I
Yeah.
love it. I can't wait to put stuff on it, even if it's just something simple. All
Yes.
of these are moments where I want my partner to see the efforts I put in to make our life together a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
And those aren't clear signals, right? But they are to the withdrawer who doesn't always have like the language to go in and
Mhm.
name all these things, but they're like, I'm doing this for our good.
Yeah.
And can you see how I'm doing this for our good and name it with me and appreciate it with me?
Yeah, that's so spot on. And also, I think it's important to have patience with the mobile drawer partner
Yeah.
because they tend to process these things a bit slower than maybe you do if you're more on the anxious
Yeah. Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
They tend to be very aware of all these things and the urgency of getting it out and expressing it. That often for the mobile drawer partner, they tend to process these things a bit slower. They might need more time to be on their
Yeah.
own to figure out what it actually is. And they
Mm-hmm.
don't respond very well to suddenly being questioned. If suddenly
Yeah.
after the podcast you go to your more avoidant partner and say, "Hey, so what are your bits for connection?"
Because it's mostly going to be pursuers that are listening to this podcast. Let's be honest. Like
That's
they're the
right.
ones reading the books, listening to the
Yes,
podcast,
that's
doing the
right.
things, and then taking it to their partner and
That's
saying, "You
that's
have to do
right.
this. We have to build an appreciation." Michael and Thomas said that I got to catch you doing something good. Did you see me smiling at you the other day? Like it's okay,
And
buddy.
that will totally overwhelm them.
That's totally going to overwhelm them.
So
Yeah.
so this is exactly why I wanted to make that point, because you're
Good
right.
point.
That will actually do the opposite. It might actually
It
make
will.
them shut down. So there's a recognition, and don't put pressure on them. Yeah, you can share this information, but also realize they might need a lot more time than you
Mhm.
to actually get to a sense of that. And it often feels even more risky for them to express it because their learned model of the world was people are not going to respond, hence why they
Mhm.
started withdrawing, right? And avoiding sharing. So it can be harder for them to do, feel more risky, and more difficult to even figure out. So just have patience with that, right? And actually
Mhm.
putting pressure on can often inhibit that process instead of helping it. So instead, if you come with a bit of curiosity and say, I heard about these bit for connection from Michael and Thomas, and and I'm just really curious what it is, you
Mhm.
do when you would like to get my attention. But take your
Mhm.
time. There's no pressure to answer. I'm just curious if it comes up for you at some point. That's a more low pressure way of
Yeah.
giving them space to consider something in their own time.
Yeah. Well, thanks. That's a really good point. Really good point for all of us pursuers to remember, is to
Yes.
give that time and space. As long as the withdrawers in the room listen to this podcast do understand that that's a bid for connection,
Yeah.
right? And the pursuer can leave some space there.
Yeah.
But man, when that withdrawer doesn't fill that space that they've been asked to move toward,
Yeah.
that hits hard, right?
Yes.
And so we'll even talk about repairing missed bids for connections in our next episode.
Yeah, that's right. So if you can do that, you might not need me and Michael at all. So there we
Yeah.
go. So
Maybe the
thank
last podcast you'll ever need.
there we go. So there we go. That was do you have a summary? Are we done and finished to go, Michael?
Yeah, we are good. So yeah, so what is where have we taken people today, right? We've been naming this idea that bids for connection
Mhm.
are how we see all attention seeking behavior, and it's not bad. And we want you to see your longing for attention as good and human,
Mm.
and your partner's longing for attention as good and human. That each of these bids for connection are opportunities to make those deposits into that bank account, because you're going to have to make a withdrawal at some point, right?
Mhm.
Work's going to call and you're going to have to stay late, right? Or work's going to put a trip on you and you're going to have to leave the next day.
Yeah.
When you have a large bank account, you can make that withdrawal and your partner go, "Oh, wow. Ugh, man, that sucks that you got called into work like that. Hey, no worries. I can take care of things here." Right? That's what you need that bank account for. Those
Mhm.
moments that are harder.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about that, and we're talking about making clear bids for connection. Like knowing what it is that I do, both in a negative sense, like do I yell when I want connection? But then what are the ways that you positively look for connection? And what are the hidden ways your partner's been looking for connection? Can you find the hidden things that have been about, come connect with me? When it's about the car, it's not about the car.
Yeah.
So looking for those moments and beginning to see them through the eyes of a bid for connection.
Yeah.
That's kind of a little summary for today.
It's a beautiful summary, Michael. So thank you for today, and we will catch you on the next episode.
All right. See you, bud.